Out in the Arizona desert is a ranch that has a way of getting under people's skin. Locals don't see it as just a stretch of land, but a place alive with strange happenings. Lights shoot across the sky without reason, shadows move where no one's standing, and odd sounds seem to float through the air at night. Some believe it's a gathering point for UFOs, others say spirits roam here, and a few think it's hiding government secrets. Whatever the truth, Bradshaw Ranch keeps its mysteries close, leaving us to wonder what's really going on in this corner of Arizona. Bob Bradshaw had a pretty unusual start in life. He was born in China in 1918, even though his parents were both English. When he was 4, they decided to make a big change and move to the United States, settling in Cleveland. As a kid, Bob was always drawn to nature. He'd spend hours outdoors, studying the world around him. Photography soon became his passion, and by high school, he'd saved up enough to buy his first 35mm camera. That was back in 1936, and it opened up a whole new way for him to explore the world, capturing the beauty he saw everywhere he went. Bob wasn't one to sit still. He was restless and loved adventure, traveling across 48 states, sometimes by hitching rides on freight trains and picking up work wherever he could. These travels became part of who he was, a man who had seen almost every corner of the country and had stories from each one. Then, in 1945, Bob stumbled upon Sedona, Arizona, and something about it just clicked for him. The red rocks, open space, and the rugged beauty of the place drew him in, and he decided to stick around. He quickly made a name for himself, becoming the go-to guy in Sedona's film industry. Western movies were booming, and for the next 2 decades, he worked on countless films, capturing the spirit of the Wild West in a way that only he could. In the 1960s, he had become a full-time stuntman and purchased the ranch with his savings, giving it his name. He and his wife Linda moved in, embracing the seclusion of the ranch. But soon after they settled, Linda began to sense an unsettling presence around the ranch, and she was about to find out why the ranch was for sale in the first place. Linda often felt as though they were being watched, especially at night. And it wasn't just her imagination. Even the family dogs would bark and growl into the darkness as if disturbed by something Linda would later refer to as the intruders. Yet, no matter how many times they searched the ranch, there was never any trace of a visitor. And this kind of went on for a while. One night, as Linda watched a meteor shower, she noticed something unusual. Among the usual streak of meteors, a few lights darted across the sky in ways that didn't match the natural flow. At first, she brushed it off, telling herself it was just a fluke. But this strange sight wouldn't be her last encounter with unusual lights in the sky. As time went on, Linda and her son began taking regular walks around the ranch, only to notice more unexplained lights. Small blinking lights dotted the property in places too remote for any ordinary source. Initially, Linda thought it might be a prank, but as the sightings grew more frequent, she realized this was no joke. One evening, a particularly bright light illuminated an old adobe building on the property. Yet when she searched, the source was nowhere to be found. The thought that these lights might be somehow connected to the intruders kept haunting her. By the way, Linda recounts all her experiences in her book. I'll put a link to that in the description below. In it, she documents several encounters that defy explanation. On one occasion, while alone on the ranch, she was surrounded by a thick white mist that appeared out of nowhere on a very clear night. On another night, Linda encountered an intense light beaming down from above, as if a massive screen had suddenly turned on in the sky. It flashed for only a moment, but she was convinced of what and even weeks later, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched by someone and she was about to be proven right. A few days after that light-beaming incident, she saw what looked like a figure near her house, holding something in its arms. But before she could do anything or take a proper look, the figure vanished into the shadows. These encounters led Linda to the obvious question: what if Bradshaw Ranch was more than just an isolated piece of land? What if it was a gateway, a portal to another realm that occasionally opens? A theory Linda Bradshaw came to believe. I mean, could you blame her? After several encounters with unexplained phenomena, that was what she could come up with to explain it all. To those who've heard her story, Bradshaw Ranch has become a place where reality feels thin. A haunted hidden land with secrets that may never be fully understood. The mysteries of Bradshaw Ranch only seem to deepen with each year. As a direct witness to the unexplainable, Linda described encounters that could shake even the most skeptical minds. Even her son John, a natural skeptic, found himself questioning reality. Despite his familiarity with the local wildlife, he started to notice creatures he couldn't identify. Animals with shapes and features that felt disturbingly alien and unlike anything he'd ever seen. In one of her most vivid experiences, she saw a red ball of light shoot up into the sky, followed by other strange flying objects hovering over the property. But there is one moment that stood out for her. While taking photos around the ranch, Linda turned to see a pulsating ball of light hovering over a bush, illuminating her as if it was observing her every move. Then, as she aimed her camera at the enormous octagonal light hovering in the sky, she managed to capture 2 frames before it vanished. At the time, she had only seen the light, but when she reviewed the photo, she was stunned. The image seemed to reveal another place entirely. The photo showed a telephone pole and structures that didn't exist on the ranch, along with what looked like a coastal scene, and in one frame, a mysterious figure appeared in the far corner. It was as though she had captured a window to another world. Linda herself took this photo. According to her, there's more to this photo than meets the eye. For instance, can you see a trace of something in the image? If we enhance the trace, we get this image. A faint number, some lines, and a telephone pole. But that's not all. Linda goes further. Take a closer look at the previous image. There's something in the corner. Tracing the image, it almost resembles a humanoid figure. Her discovery was quite chilling, but after this fateful day, Linda's experiences went beyond the visual. The strange occurrences didn't stop. One quiet evening, her dogs were barking and growling ferociously at something invisible, as though an unseen presence was provoking them. As she tried to calm them, she felt a wave of nausea and heard a menacing hissing sound nearby, as if something or someone was standing right beside her. It was like a mild case of the invisible man. Her son, John Bradshaw, also encountered strange happenings while staying in a small house on the ranch. One morning, he awoke to a sound outside and saw an object hovering near his window, slowly descending into the distance. Another night, 2 of his friends noticed a stationary light outside and then saw small shadowy figures moving past the window. Fearing for their safety, they rushed to Linda's house, but it followed them. They saw yet another shadowy figure near the door, prompting Linda to investigate. She found no one, but felt a weird presence. Linda began to suspect that these mysterious beings were becoming bolder, perhaps even entering her home. It wasn't just their imaginations. The family felt genuinely disturbed by whatever lurked in the darkness. One of the most perplexing incidents involved John himself. He had set out on a hike, but didn't return when expected, leaving Linda deeply worried. She organized a search party, and they combed the ranch on horseback, but found no sign of him. Then, late that night, Linda received a call. It was John, phoning from Cottonwood, a town 15 miles away. Surprisingly, he had no memory of how he'd gotten there. With everything the Bradshaws had witnessed, they couldn't help but wonder why no one had ever mentioned the strange happenings on the ranch before they came along. Historical records suggest Bradshaw Ranch wasn't always a quiet homestead. An old newspaper from 1922 reported strange lights south of Sedona, hovering about 15 feet above the ground. Previous residents of the ranch might have witnessed odd phenomena, but chose to stay silent, perhaps to avoid disbelief. For decades, the land was primarily used as a film set, making Linda's accounts the first recorded reports of these events. But for Native American tribes such as the Yavapai, Sedona is more than just a landscape, but a sacred space, infused with spiritual energy. This tribe has held ceremonies there for generations. This wasn't just a ranch to them, but a special spiritual place. The Cherokee beliefs also speak of mysterious little people, mysterious beings who are said to live in secluded natural areas. Often described as mischievous or protective by the locals, these figures were believed to lure lost tribe members away, only to return them later with lessons learned. Further west, near Mount Shasta, legends tell of rocks that swallow people. According to these tales, travelers who wandered too close to specific boulders would vanish without a trace, as if the stones themselves were alive. A place where those who disappear aren't lost, but transported into another reality. And they stay away from lands or areas like that, which could explain why the Bradshaws could easily afford the ranch in the first place. Linda Bradshaw's own experiences on the ranch give these theories even more weight. Linda often felt as though her family wasn't alone, usually sensing a strange presence around them. One night, her friend and co-author Tom joined her in an attempt to make contact and to prove Linda wasn't going crazy. Using a flashlight, Tom aimed it at the sky and flashed 3 times. To their shock, something in the sky responded with 3 flashes, almost like it was returning their signal. For Linda and Tom, it was a chilling confirmation that something, aware and possibly conscious, was trying to communicate. Bradshaw Ranch has left people with more questions than answers. It's no wonder people have started coming up with their own ideas about what's really happening there. From the plausible to the downright bizarre, these theories try to make sense of it all. So let's dive into the theories and see if any of them bring us closer to uncovering the truth about Bradshaw Ranch. One of the most popular theories is that Bradshaw Ranch is more than just desert land. It's a hot zone for encounters with beings from other worlds or even other dimensions. Witnesses have reported seeing shimmering lights that hover silently above the ranch, only to dart away at impossible speeds. Others describe bright, unusual orbs, and some have even claimed to see strange, humanoid figures that appear, then vanish, as if slipping through a tear in reality itself. So it's not just Linda alone, there are other witnesses. Some paranormal researchers believe Sedona's famous vortexes might be the key. These natural energy centers are thought to create heightened spiritual experiences. But at Bradshaw, some wonder if they're amplifying something else entirely. A gateway, perhaps to other dimensions. Investigators who have ventured here noted bizarre findings, like temperature drops in isolated pockets and strange spikes in electromagnetic readings. It's almost as if something out there doesn't want to be seen, but can't help leaving its mark. But maybe the ranch's mystery has nothing to do with aliens or dimensions at all. Some say the real reason behind the strange happenings at Bradshaw Ranch lies in something much closer to home. Rumors have circulated that the US government quietly seized the property to conduct secretive experiments. Some say it's a testing ground for advanced technology that most of us can't even imagine. Local sightings of unmarked helicopters flying low over the ranch and camouflaged personnel blending into the landscape add fuel to the fire. In 2003, the US government purchased the 22-acre ranch, adding it to the Federal Forest Service. The official reason given was climate research, a study expected to last about 2 decades. Yet, rumors quickly spread that the government's interest in Bradshaw Ranch wasn't purely scientific. Some believe the land holds more than meets the eye, possibly a powerful energy vortex or even a portal to another realm. Why else would the government suddenly acquire the property? As wild as these theories get, dimensional portals, secret tests, unknown creatures, not everyone's convinced. In fact, the critics are just as vocal, throwing a bucket of cold water on the idea that Bradshaw Ranch is anything more than myth and mystery feeding off each other. To them, it's a case of tall tales and eager imaginations. So let's take a closer look at what the skeptics have to say and why they're not buying into it. For all the tales of aliens and portals, skeptics point to simpler explanations rooted in nature and psychology. According to scientists, the phenomena reported at Bradshaw Ranch are missing the kind of evidence that would stand up to scrutiny. No clear photos, credible documentation, or physical traces that would prove something out of this world. They argue that much of what's described is based on personal accounts, stories that sound compelling but lack measurable data. The electromagnetic fluctuations recorded on the ranch, for example, are not exclusive to Bradshaw. They can naturally occur in places with high geological activity. In this light, critics suggest that what visitors interpret as alien encounters or interdimensional shifts could be natural sensory distortions, common in areas like Sedona. Sedona is famous for its strong magnetic fields, with areas where the Earth's energies seem to intensify, creating effects that many visitors report feeling as a kind of tingling or vibrating sensation. Some believe these magnetic fields around Bradshaw Ranch could cause unusual electrical interference and optical illusions. This might explain why visitors' cameras and other equipment often fail without warning, and why people experience moments of extreme disorientation or see strange phenomena that seem to flicker in and out of sight. If these magnetic fields are powerful enough, they could even affect the mind, leading people to see and hear things that aren't there. Plus, there is the idea that the simplest explanation may lie in the very reputation that Sedona carries. Known as a spiritual destination, Sedona attracts thousands each year who seek enlightenment, healing, or a brush with the supernatural. For those who come to Bradshaw Ranch primed for an encounter with the unknown, the power of suggestion can be a powerful force. Psychologists call this the expectation effect. When people are primed to experience something extraordinary, their minds may interpret ambiguous sights, sounds, or even feelings as paranormal. A stray sound, a distant light, or even a shadow shifting across the landscape could feel otherworldly. Here's another thing. While the U.S. government did acquire Bradshaw Ranch, remember that the Forest Service's focus is on land management, not hidden experiments. In fact, sightings of helicopters and military personnel aren't unusual in large wilderness areas, especially where routine operations like environmental research and conservation efforts are carried out. Without direct evidence, documents, whistleblower accounts, or clear verified reports, many still believe the government angle remains speculative. The radiation levels picked up by investigators might have other origins, such as remnants from older equipment or even natural radioactive sources. Now, what the critics say is all true, and they make sense, but here's the thing, it doesn't answer all the questions. Take, for example, the magnetic field theory. It is plausible, but it falls short of accounting for the breadth of strange experiences reported at Bradshaw Ranch. It's true that magnetic fluctuations can interfere with electronics and may create optical illusions, but a minority of people doubt that these shifts could inspire the intense fear or vivid hallucinations that many visitors describe. In such, the field changes measured are so small that they typically require specialized instruments to detect, making it unlikely that visitors would feel them directly. So basically, Bradshaw's Ranch is still a mystery. Sadly, this could be where our investigation would end for now. seeing as the land is now in the hands of the US government, which means they are in total control of the narrative of the Bradshaw Ranch. The strange events at Bradshaw Ranch might feel supernatural and new, but they connect to old familiar stories like the Skinwalker Ranch. And luckily, this one is not in the hands of the government. In such, it is often said that the Skinwalker Ranch is like the older brother of the Bradshaw Ranch mystery. And being older means it comes with the unfiltered truth of what exactly these things are.